Hey,
How's it going?
it's going, man. Right now we're here to talk about the series in general of Falcon and the Winter Soldier or Captain America and the Winter Soldier. And
Well,
we're
you
going to
just
talk.
gave away the spoiler, Greg.
Lee, the spoiler would be on the thumbnail. So I think anybody that's pressing onto this will already know it's spoilers.
That's true.
Yeah.
I stand corrected. I, I, I should have. I should have thought about that more.
So anyway,
Oh
yeah,
man.
so we're here to do either a season wrap up and breakdown on the whole season, or if it might be a limited series because we don't know if they're going to do a second season. But for me, I thought Falcon and Winter Soldier is I thought it was a very entertaining, a very good show with a lot of great moments, a lot of clunky moments. That doesn't necessarily stick the landing in the season finale, but I did think that the themes that they were going after was very ambitious. I thought they were very important, and there was so much to talk about. I can't wait. But all in all, I was glad that they did this, and I thought they really did a great job on particularly with Sam's journey of becoming picking up the shield and becoming Captain America.
I
Yeah.
concur. I mean, for the most part, I did enjoy the show. I think some episodes were better than others, of course, but
I concur.
yeah, clunky is a good description because I liked a lot of what they said in the show, but
Hmm.
I just didn't care about how they said it in certain parts. For overall, though, I thought the show was very enjoyable. Do you know? And this is something we've talked about in the past, but it's even more clear now watching this and maybe even seeing the previews for the upcoming Marvel films. Like Black Widow
Hmm.
and what was the new one?
Oh, you're talking about Shang-Chi and the Ten
Yeah,
Rings.
yeah, that one. Um, the one thing about Marvel is, and I guess this is going to be a good thing or a bad thing, but they all look the same. I guess this is their brand, but at the same time, I find it very bland. I find the look of a
Hmm.
Marvel show and a Marvel movies very bland visually.
All
Um,
right.
even the fighting in this one, I felt the fighting in this was serviceable and utilitarian, but
Hmm.
there was nothing in the action pieces that really thrilled me or that made me go, "Whoa, okay." There is a nice moment when all three of them are fighting the
Yeah.
John Walker.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. There's some great
Hmm.
moments in that, but for the most part, I've seen it before. Like when they're on top of the trucks and they're fighting. We've seen that in gosh, how many action films have we seen that in the
Right.
past? And it's almost
Right.
like they just go by the numbers. So there's nothing really. There's a few little moments here and there, but for the most part, I thought the action was just kind of serviceable. But I did love the character, the Falcon, and I did love the Winter Soldier. I did think those two characters. I thought they did a great job kind of creating that kind of buddy relationship between them, the riffing back and forth and stuff, and the way they developed those characters and their
Hmm.
friendship throughout the series. I thought they did a great job on that.
No, that's interesting you say that because look, Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan always had chemistry, and you could sense that. You could see a little of that um, in the movies. Now, maybe
Hmm.
not so much in Winter Soldier because Sebastian was the bad guy in that one, and Mackie was the first introduction of Falcon. But you start to see it in Civil War because they were
Right.
being paired more together in that movie, and you kind of saw a little bit of it in the Infinity War and stuff, but particularly in Civil War. Plus, their interviews that they were so hilarious. They're so funny
Hmm.
whenever they were being interviewed because they're always interviewed together. And I always got a sense that the more that they were ragging on each other, and it was always fun when they were ragging on Tom Holland, You just knew that. I always knew. I said, yeah, I could see these guys doing. They were doing something with these guys, and sure enough, doing Falcon and Winter Soldier together makes perfect sense. What I really liked about the series is that it showed us that they weren't really friends, but they were friends with someone. They were friends with Steve Rogers.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always kind of funny, like which does Steve like more? Does he like Bucky? Does he like Sam? And it was was it a jealousy thing between them? Like was Bucky jealous that Steve chose Sam to give the shield? And I'll tell you, in Endgame, I generally got emotional when I remember when he did pick Sam to give. When he picked Sam to give the shield to, because in the comics, both Falcon and Winter Soldier both were Captain America at one time or another. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
thinking to myself, wow, that was a really kind of interesting, even brave choice.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt it was the right choice for a couple of reasons, but in particular, the fact that Sam's black and now will be the new Captain America. That's an incredible opportunities for drama and story, which I felt
Mm-hmm.
like this show has definitely taken advantage of. And also, I did like the fact that you explored their relationship as their I didn't feel like they became friends until episode 5. That was when they were throwing the shield back and forth, and you kind of, that's when they started to bond. I call that the
When they
fishing
were
boat
working on the
episode.
boat, was
Yeah,
that
it
the
was,
one where they were working on the boat?
they were
Mm-hmm.
working on the boat. The boat, I guess,
Yeah.
brings people together. But that's
No,
when you.
I
But
in fact, actually, that episode was one of my favorite episodes, if not maybe my favorite episode of the whole
mine,
series.
yeah, mine too,
Yeah.
mine too. And I thought that the idea of Sam giving up the shield, I really liked, because it was that weight of him not, because he makes a comment, and they do this great opening in episode 1 where you hear Captain America, when you hear Steve and Sam have the conversation at Endgame. How does it feel when he gives him the shield? And then Sam says it feels like it's someone else. And I think that originally we all probably assumed that either Sam didn't feel he was worthy of the shield, or that he couldn't walk in Steve Rogers' footsteps, that he gave up the shield. But it was apparent that obviously there was something else, and we'll explore that, particularly when we introduce the Isaiah Bradley character into it, which is by far the best thing of the show, is that introduction of that character. But I will say that the fact that you had resentment from Bucky on why did he give up the shield, and there's that
Mm.
great moment in the therapy office where he says that if he asked him, why'd you give up the shield? And Sam's like, why do you care? And he makes the comment, because if Steve might have been wrong, if he chose you for the shield and you gave it up, then maybe he was wrong about you. And if he's wrong about you, maybe he's wrong about me. Conveyed so much on what Bucky's going through, which is not being the Winter Soldier.
Which I like that
So
arc. I mean, they started it out really interesting with him. I guess it was sort of a flashback or whatever when he was Winter Soldier,
yeah,
and he was assassinating people, and he
an
assassinates one.
Asian kid that witnessed it, and then he kills him, and then
Yeah.
you find,
Oh,
yeah, and
and
then you find out that
I
he's friends with the kid's father, who doesn't
right,
know that the man that he's friends with also killed his son.
right, and I thought that setup was awesome. I thought, okay, this is going to get really heavy pretty quickly, and they
Yeah.
kind of almost forgot about it. It's felt
Hmm.
like until later on.
But I also felt that they didn't pay that off. I mean, the idea of him having to be friends with the father of the son that he killed. You're waiting for, when is that other shoe going to drop? And there's that great moment, that great conversation he has with Sam, where Sam says you have to do the work. You can't, if you want to make amends, you can't make amends by doing something that'll make you feel better. You got to make amends by making the other person feel better, which we all knew that, okay,
Hmm.
he's got to talk to this guy, this old guy, about what happened to his son, because The old guy didn't know. He didn't have any closure.
Right.
And the problem with, I think, season's finale is that sometimes you don't stick the landing, because there is a moment where he does go to that old man and he does tell the old man that he was the one that murdered his son.
We don't
And
see it though. I mean,
no,
he
because
goes in there
they cut
and
away.
we start it. It's like, okay, well, so much for the drama, folks. We got to wrap this bad boy up. We've already had all the action, so we want to go home now. But yeah,
Well,
that's
yeah,
how it felt, because it was an
yeah,
afterthought almost. And the fact that he goes back to talk to the father, you're thinking, okay, here it comes. Here's going to be
yeah,
that gut wrenching scene
yeah.
where we get to see Bucky just really expose himself. But it never really happens. He walks in and you see him say, "I got something to tell you," and then we just cut away. It's like, okay, we took care of that. It's done.
Yeah, and it was really too bad, because that's the moment where you want to spend time with. I mean, it's not just
Yeah,
enough that he says it, but you need to factor in what the father, how he's feeling. I think they had one cutaway of his reaction for a brief moment. It cuts back, and then all of a sudden we're out of the scene, and you're just like, "What
yeah,
the hell?"
yeah. It's kind of a
And
cheat. Yeah, it really
yeah,
shortchanged Sebastian's character. The Bucky character. I thought he deserved better. You know?
well, I mean, and again, I think it was kind of interesting. I think what they ended up doing was that they were, because Bucky had a lot of screen time in the beginning of the
Right.
series. If you notice, they were
Hmm.
spending a lot of time with him, and a lot of and his angst and what was driving him and stuff. And with Falcon, because he gave up the shield and because he was on this mission, I was getting nervous that maybe he might get shortchanged in his own series. But then I realized what they end up doing was they end up spending more time with him towards the second and third act of it. So,
Right.
but I do think, though, out of a lot of the good that they've done with the characters, there were some things that weren't good. I felt like the John Walker character, by Wright Russell, I thought did an excellent job, and he was a very fascinating, technically better villain than the Carly and the Flag Smashers, which is the biggest weakness of the show.
I, I still don't know what their motivation is completely.
No,
I mean,
no.
I know that they're pissed off about about everybody coming back and them trying to adapt and everything. And I know they're upset about that, but honestly, I was confused by that whole motivation. I didn't understand what their point was, how they were going to fix it. If they did, if the politicians did listen to them, I couldn't figure out, well, if they listen to you, how are they going to fix it anyways? What is your plan?
Yes, yes.
I didn't ask, what's your end game here? You're fucking shit up. You're going around your superhuman strength, but I really
Right.
don't know what your point is.
Yeah, I think every character should have a want, a strong want.
But don't you find that's another big, huge problem in the Marvel universe, for the exception of Thanos,
And
really,
Killmonger.
and Killmonger. But yeah,
No, no,
but
no.
for the most part,
I mean, if you really think about it, because I know you can't dismiss Killmonger's
no,
motivation.
I'm
His
not
motivation is
dismissing it.
very
I'm not
strong.
dismissing him. I'm saying he definitely is. I'm saying, yeah, Killmonger, and I will give you and Thanos and Killmonger, those two, yeah, definitely.
And what about Loki?
Loki's, but is Loki a bad guy? Really? I mean,
Well, I
is
mean, I
he?
guess when
Because
he, I guess when you started off, he was, and obviously
yeah, I mean,
they
Loki's sort of
redeemed him.
like, okay, Loki, you're funny. You're a funny bad guy, Loki. No, I don't think Loki's a great bad guy. I think he's a great character, but I also don't think he's necessarily the bad
Okay.
guy that I fear. In the
Would you
Marvel
include
universe, the
Zemo?
bad guys, what?
Would you include Zemo?
No, no.
I like how
No,
you,
I wouldn't.
I like how you had a blank when he's literally in the show.
He's in the show, which is it's another reason why. Yeah, but see, that's what I'm getting at. The problem with Marvel, though, is they are very weak with their bad guys. you're only as good, I think, as your bad guy, especially when you're doing a superhero film. And I think that even with the Baron, who I thought, okay, this could be interesting, how
Hmm.
they kind of team up for a little bit. And I
Correct.
thought, well, because you're kind of figuring out, okay, does Baron have some secret agenda? Is there something going on with Baron? Because they everybody's got to be Hannibal Lecter now, right? They go and they break him out of prison, and he's always behind the
Hmm.
glass, and oh, he's so scary.
Yeah,
We
right,
got to
right.
have like 1,000 people guard this one person because he's so evil. So I just don't see it though. When they get him out, he kind of hangs with them. He's almost like becomes one of the team.
Right,
And
right.
ultimately, at the end of the day, eh, he goes away. He goes, the
The
not
Dora
it.
Milaje. Yeah,
Yeah, the
I
Dora
mean,
Milaje come and take him away, and that's it.
oh, which again, which is it never made sense that they're taking him to the raft. Now, if you remember, the raft is the water, the prison that's in the water that was in Civil War, where they keep all the maximum super villains at.
Mm-hmm.
They take him, the Wakandans take him to the raft. Now, the idea is that there's a possible spinoff of the Thunderbolts, which is Thunderbolt Ross is recruiting villains to go on assignment, aka Suicide Squad for the Marvel. But at the
Right.
same time, logically, it doesn't make sense because why would the Wakandans, who would be after Zemo because Zemo killed their king, take him to a government facility where they would have taken him back to Wakanda? So there's those little
Yeah.
moments where you're scratching your head, like, why would they do that?
Yeah.
Obviously,
It,
you
it
need
didn't
to
really track well.
no, you need to get Zemo on that on at the raft because he's going to be a part of whatever spinoff they're going to do next. But no, I agree. I agree, and I mean, I think that Marvel's they've always their villain outside of like you mentioned. Now, I would even say the Michael Keaton character in Vulture in Spider-Man: Homecoming was a pretty well developed villain because I think you would have to be if you're getting Michael Keaton because I understood his motivation and I understood his
Mm-hmm.
anger and I understood why he did what he did. But you can't say that for all of the Marvel villains. And I think
Right.
and I think you got that in this show because on one hand you have the new Captain America, John Walker, and they do a really good job of making you feel for him and sympathize. They could have easily made him kind of like a two-dimensional, racist, one-note
Right.
guy, but
Right.
the moment you see him in the locker room talking to his wife, who is a person of color, and his best, which is funny, his best black friend. Um, but you understand that he wants to do good. You understand he understands that being the next Captain America, there's going to be a lot of pressure with that. He has the same insecurity, so you can relate to this guy. But then they do a really good job that even though, okay, this is who the guy they're rooting for, you kind of have a little sympathy, but underneath it, there's something's not quite right with him. There's a certain white privilege that's coming that he's projecting out there. And it was great. That's just great development of who this guy is as we get into what happens with his character arc. But then you get someone like Carly, who is the leader of the Flag Smasher, which I can't stand that name. It's hard for me to remember.
Which
Um,
technically she's playing the exact same role that she did in Solo.
Infant's Nest. Yeah, you're right. It's
I mean,
literally
it's
the
like
same
she's
character.
with the
It's
same beast. She even reveals herself, right? So she takes
yeah,
the mask off in Solo and reveals herself, and she kind
yeah.
of does the same thing in this the first episode
Well,
of this one. She takes her mask off and reveals herself. She's a great actress, and
mhm,
she's very likable. I guess that's why they cast her in that part because they're doing this weird thing where, well, she's a terrorist, but her heart's in a good place. So we want to be
mhm.
able to identify with her and kind of see her side of the story, So I guess they got this actress that is very,
Just like Solo. It's
yeah,
literally the same
yeah,
character. It's like
uh-huh,
you think she's doing something. She's like you're either classified as a terrorist or a criminal, in Solo, but then you realize, oh, she's really a freedom fighter, and she's
Right.
actually the things that she's doing. You can kind of understand. So yeah, you're right. They're on their way of trying to sympathize her right from the get go, and I think the reason they cast her is because I guess in the casting they were like, man, this character reminds me. Can we cast someone that was in Solo that played Infant's Nest? Who can we get? How about that actress? Okay,
Look at
wasn't
that
she in
actress.
Solo? Yeah, we could get that actress exactly. So it really
Uh,
is it's literally the same character. Now
and the
remind
problem
me.
with that, though, is once again, I never found her intimidating or even her crew intimidating. And I never understood how, first off, she's so young. How in the world did you get all these people to follow you? I just thought the execution of that was probably the weakest link of the whole show.
Yeah, I mean it's funny. I kind of picked that up when I saw the trailer. And when I saw the trailer of Falcon and Winter Soldier and they introduced the Flag Smashers and stuff, first question I had was like, okay, who are these guys? And then
Mm-hmm.
there was nothing about them that I ever felt intimidated or felt that they were a threat. Actually, I thought Zemo having the mask in that trailer was the biggest threat,
Right.
and he kind of was for a while. But going back to her, um, now let me ask you this because I'm trying to still follow the plot. Now, was it a case of after the blimp, when everybody came back? Um, now the world is trying to figure out they had enough resources for the people that remained, but now that people came back, they were kind of suffering with now overpopulation and what we're going to do with the people that came back. And my question to you though is I wasn't sure if the idea that they were going to treat the people that came back as refugees and replace them someplace else, or was it that the people that left and the people that took over, let's say if I had a house and then I disappeared and then I come back, but somebody else is living in my house, are they getting rid of the people that moved into my house? You know, so I was very confused on which were the what's considered the refugees, the people that stayed or the people that left and came back.
And see, Greg, this is the problem because you have these questions. You have these questions, and I have the same questions too.
Yeah.
So, because the both of us have the same questions, that's
Right,
a
right.
problem. That is a
Yeah.
major problem because you failed. And maybe it's in there. Maybe I have to go back and I look at the couple episodes and maybe
Yeah.
there is a tidbit in there that maybe explains that. But the
Yeah.
problem is that you didn't do it enough for me to understand that because it is sort of a very big thing, right? It's a
Yeah.
situation that you're not aware of that, oh, it's an interesting dilemma that I
Yeah.
never even thought
Yeah.
about,
I
when
think it's
people
great.
came back.
Yeah, it's a great ideas for some great drama going down the line. But
That
you're
they
right.
kind of glossed over or maybe explained it in some expository dialogue
Hmm.
that maybe you just and unfortunately it might be one of those scenes where they start just talking about it and you kind of the wheels
Huh?
go round and round and you kind of drift off into space. Like, oh, okay, all right, the
Well,
action scene, let's
well,
go
this is
back.
one. Yeah, this is one of those shows I didn't really watch again after I've seen it the first time, and I'm kind of wanting to do it more like that because obviously, if you go back and you rewatch it and rewatch it, and I know a lot of people that do a lot of podcastings on entertainment and films and stuff will sometimes see it two or three times before they talk about it. But I also from the idea of, well, what if I don't want to? Can I get all this as I watch it the first time? Because most people will watch something the first time and they're going to have a reaction to it, and they're not going to go back and watch it if they don't like it or if it doesn't work.
When I see a show or a movie, I don't feel like I should have to study it.
Yes, yes. And the thing is, I'm not even saying I would not revisit this show again. I wouldn't watch it from beginning to end. Even though there's a part of me that would be curious to do it, only because this, different from WandaVision, definitely played more like a longer movie than it did an individual episode, episodic. Um,
Right. Which
but
is
at the
fine.
same,
I
no,
actually kind of like that.
yeah, but if you break down just plot wise, as far as the motivation of the Flag Smashers, if the idea is and I think I got this, is that things were better when people were gone. So
Well, that
and no,
probably is
which I
true.
thought, yeah, you get more room, you get more space.
Right.
Probably the price of living went down. There's probably less pollution, fresh air. There's more fish, all that stuff. So unless
Hmm.
they disappeared with the snap, that would be crazy. But but
Right.
but the idea is that I guess the Flag Smashers group, now that the people are back, the politics now is what are we going to do with them? And again, I don't know if the idea is, well, we're going to relocate them, but I think for this story, the idea was that the people that disappeared and came back, now we have to share or give them back what was lost to them, meaning if it was land or if it was
Hmm.
just whatever, we have to now share with them. And so somehow they're treating a group of people as refugees, which is what's happening in our current status today. But then, but I still never understood what the Flag Smashers' plan was, their overall plan. It's obvious they
Right.
don't like
How are they
this.
going to fix this? Right.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Now,
Yeah.
I did hear that originally they were going to unleash a virus, and I think that they had to they had to fix it, because
Yeah, they
what
had
happened?
to.
They
Right.
had to jettison
That's
that.
too close to home. Yeah.
Yeah, they had to jettison that idea, and maybe because they did that, because of COVID, a lot of things got switched around, and and we didn't get maybe the full story arc with those characters. But at the same time, outside of Carly, you don't get to know any of those henchmen whatsoever, and they all look like kids. And it just, yeah, I just thought they were. And Carly eventually just becomes who you sympathize with. All of a sudden, now starts to become more and more evil. So it was almost like even when they
Well,
started to do it, it was almost like, okay, now she's killing people now she's okay with that, and it just kind of fell by the wayside.
the Falcon, Anthony Mackie's character, how many times does he talk her down or try to talk her
Right,
down and
right.
reason with her, only to have them interrupted towards the end of the conversation and
Hmm.
something bad happens?
Right.
It happened. It happens with her. It's
Hmm.
like he became like the negotiator, right? He comes
Yeah,
in, negotiates, he kind of talks them down. It looks like everything's going to go good.
yeah.
They're going to come over to his side, and suddenly, Winter Soldier or somebody comes in and says, "Oh, fuck you, let's get
Well, it's
him."
John Walker. It's John. Is
Yeah,
that episode 5 where he's just like, no, 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 this is
yeah.
wrong. And it was great. And then he comes in there and he acts like acts like when you have to tell somebody you're Captain America, you're no Captain America. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yes, true. Yeah.
he does that all the time. But
Hmm.
that was also what I liked about what they did with with Sam's character, because Sam Wilson's character, you understood the fact that he didn't want the shield, the fact that he's a counselor. He's
Hmm.
for war veterans. That's how Steve Rogers met him. The
Right.
fact that he will always use diplomacy and than violence. The fact that he does these things and he's surrounded by people who will do violence first, like John Walker, like Carly, and even like Winter Soldier, like Bucky. It became more obvious as the show went on. He is Captain America. This is the reason why Steve picked him.
I thought that became like a
I
repetitive,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and I
And
thought
that's
it's a great idea. I think they could have just found some more interesting ways of doing it. It just felt like, okay, here we go. The cycle happens once again. I mean, every time he would come into a room with the bad guy, I go,
right.
oh, here we go. You're able to talk the bad guy down, but that one little moment at the end, just blows it all up, and it goes right back to
Well,
square one.
I will say, look, that moment. Look, I love the moment where he tried to talk her down the first time,
Right.
and that's when Walker. And I think that was episode 5, where Walker interferes and just kind of screws everything up. That was like the one moment where you felt anything for her, is that conversation with Sam, and it actually made Sam stand out that much more. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think by the time you go to the finale, where he literally has to fight her, actually, she's already killed a whole bunch of people, including Lamar, which is Walker's best black sidekick. You know,
Battlestar.
yeah,
Battlestar is the name of it. Yeah,
Battlestar, which
Battlestar.
never
Yeah,
made sense
yeah.
because the idea for her was we were going to kill Captain America. Well, then they already
Hmm.
killed Captain America's sidekick, but yet they see that and they run away. And I'm like, no, why don't you just finish Captain America off like you were
Right.
supposed to? But it's almost like kids, just like, oh, we didn't mean for someone to get hurt for real. Let's get out of here. There was just so many inconsistency on whether or not these guys were serious on actually committing the acts that they were going to commit, or because at one moment she talks about helping other people, and in another moment she blows up a building with people in there that's not on her side.
But yeah, it's almost like Marvel wanted their cake and eat it too. We want the terrorists to be bad, but we also want to understand them. So we'll put this very unassuming, almost sweet-looking
Like teenage
leader,
girl.
teenage girl in there so you can identify with her or feel something for her.
Hmm.
And so all these awful things that she's doing maybe won't seem so bad. And I'm like going, no, no, no. The stuff that she's doing is it's pretty bad.
You got Sam, who spent more time with Curly, who dies, and then he brings her down with his wings to the public. But at the same time, Sharon Carter got shot, and
Right.
I don't know if he even went to her. And I guess it must
No,
have
it's
been a
almost
flesh
like he
wound.
knew she was going to be okay,
Yeah,
right? It's like, she got
it's a
shot. She's
flesh
going to be
wound.
fine.
But
Yeah,
then
she'll
Sam
be fine.
says in the finale, that you got to stop calling them terrorists. But that's what they are. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
that's what they are. They're terrorists. They
That's
may
kind of the
mean well.
definition of a terrorist, right?
Thank you. Exactly.
It's like,
They,
well,
if they're killing people for political reasons, they're terrorists.
yeah,
And
yeah.
especially the way that they were doing it. So it did get to a point like where he wouldn't fight her. That's where it goes too far. Where you're going, God damn it, put her down. And speaking of fighting, the fighting in this, because I will say the aerial stuff for the most part I thought was great. It's obvious. They had a lot of money, especially in episode one. I thought that the flight and everything that followed, that was like my favorite moment when he was flying around in that first episode. I thought that was on the budget was it equals the films.
I kept on expecting some of those spaceships from Independence Day to show up
Yeah.
because it kind of reminded me. It reminded
I
me of
think
that canyon scene, right?
Yeah, I think they might have filmed in the same canyon scene there,
Look
but
in the same place.
but no, but
But
it
no,
was
it looked
really
great. It looked great.
it
It looked
looked
great.
great. I thought that was great. I love the way that he's able to use the jet in fighting style. I thought that was excellent. I thought the way that they were
That was
able to
very. That was
choreograph
very. That was very
in
creative. I thought the way they did
yeah,
the wings.
very exactly. I wasn't so much of a fan of the flight at night in the finale. I thought the editing was really bad and you just didn't know what you were watching. That felt completely rushed. But for the most part, the flight stuff with Falcon I thought was great. Why I was scratching my head is Winter Soldier. If you look at the Winter Soldier from Captain America Winter Soldier, he was a fucking badass. He was a force
Mm-hmm.
to be reckoned with, and he was
Mm-hmm.
able to take people out like that. I mean, but yet you're going to tell me that he's going to struggle against a bunch of kids who took the super soldier serum, and all of a sudden he's struggling against them, and he's a bona fide assassin.
Does the serum give you years and years of tactical training as well when you take it? Because
Apparently so,
you're
Tony.
thinking to yourself,
Apparently
uh,
so.
yeah. Because if I'm just an ordinary person, okay, I might be super strong after taking this, but you still have to know how to use your strength, right? There's
Yes.
techniques, there's
Hmm.
training, and you're thinking, well, Bucky, like you said, he's a cold-blooded, hardcore murderer, right?
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
going up against these. Let's face it, they're laymen. They're rookies.
Yes.
If
Total
anything,
rookie.
even if they've had any training, she looks like she's 16 or 17 years old.
Exactly.
How many
Exactly.
years of training would she have even if she did take some training?
And I
So
don't care
yeah, he
how.
should be able to take them out no problem because you figure if their strength is equal, then now it comes to the knowledge of how to throw down,
Yeah.
and he would
Yes.
definitely have the more
Yes.
experience.
Yes. You're absolutely right. And I was just thinking of that. It's like, okay, you could argue, and I've heard arguments saying, oh, well, if they're all super soldiers, then he's outnumbered. But I said, but I would push back. I'm saying yes and no because he actually has military skills. He actually has fighting training skills. He's much more trained than them. If they are trained, we did not see that in this show whatsoever. We
Right,
know
right.
nothing about them. We don't know nothing about their background. We know nothing about their fighting skills. All we know was a bunch of hoodlums took some super soldier, and all of a sudden they're just as powerful as he is, and that's what was really driving me nuts. Is that it shouldn't even be a contest.
What's funny is every time the flag group, I don't know what they call it. What is the flag group here? The flag people. Every time
You're
the
right.
flag people would start to fight, I thought it was hilarious because they would always put the mask on
Yeah,
right before they
yeah,
would fight. And then
yeah. When
sometimes it would be a jump cut where you're going, wait a minute, when did she put the mask on? But they always put
right.
the mask on because, of course, I guess the stunt guy would have to step in. And that was an easy way to hide the fact that, well, she's not doing it anymore. It's the stunt guy.
Well, yeah, because wouldn't you just the idea was that you would have the mask when you're committing the heist or whatever. But yeah, you're right. Right when they're about ready to fight, then they put on the
Well, it has
mask.
that one scene when she has the mask off the whole time they're talking to each other. And the minute
Hmm.
she starts to fight him, she puts the mask on. I'm like going, they know who you are. You just had a conversation with these people.
Yeah. Well, we gotta hide the stunned person. We gotta hide the stunned person. But I think there is a lack of quality of the fighting between the movie and the show because
Mm-hmm.
with the exception of where Sam, Bucky, and Walker threw down. That was the best fight scene out of the entire series.
Where they broke
But
his arm, they break John Walker's arm
he wouldn't
with
let
the
go of that
shield.
shield. He wouldn't let go of the shield, man. I mean, that shield must be
Oh,
a
that was
powerful
brutal.
drug.
That
That
was
was
that was
well. It
pretty
wasn't just how
brutal.
just that the fact that he broke the arm, but Falcon used the jetpack to break that
Mm.
arm. I was just like, oh, it actually made me turn my head. That was really great. And but it was that was the one that I felt was given the most thought. And because the most emotion was coming out of that. I mean, this is coming right after Walker killed somebody. So,
Hmm.
and it was also very reminiscent, obviously, of Civil War between Cap, Bucky, and Iron Man. Now, I get why Sam would have trouble fighting because Sam's the only person there that didn't take the super serum. That's a
Well,
tongue twister.
everybody almost in this show had super soldier. I mean, I guess even the George St. Pierre guy from I guess he was in Winter Soldier. They
Yeah,
brought
the
him
leaper.
back.
Yeah, I call him the leaper.
The Leaper, right? Yeah,
Yeah. I
the
think
MMA guy that
backtrack
they
is
got.
the character. Backtrack, I
But
think, is his name or something. I don't know.
yeah,
The
so
leaper.
my understanding is now I'm just guessing, but I'm guessing that he has the super soldier syndrome, the super
So,
soldier serum as well, because he
well,
was
no,
able to
but
hold his own with Captain America even back in Winter Soldier, and it seemed like he was able to, you know, pretty much take on uh,
Falcon.
the Falcon. You know, in this,
But
even though the Falcon had the special suit and the wings and everything like that.
I don't. You're right. At the same time, they never specify he did take it. And in Winter Soldier, the super soldier serum wasn't is becoming a drinking game. Wasn't how many times you could say super soldier serum? You take a shot, but that was never in that storyline. I just assumed he held his own because he was a great fighter.
Hmm.
But Cap was, and he did hold his own against Cap, which I thought was even more funny that that he was holding his own. It didn't surprise me that he would hold his own against Falcon because Falcon isn't at that stage yet of fighting skills. I mean, he uses his
Hmm.
wings to evade a lot of punches and stuff smartly, but he's still a human dude. So I don't know. I don't know if this guy has taken it or not. But I'm speaking of super soldier serum. What's your thoughts of John Walker?
I
What
he
did you feel about the character?
He was one of my favorite characters. I think Wyatt Russell is awesome.
Yeah,
I think it definitely has Kurt Russell's genes in him, you know, because
he
uh,
does.
yeah, he's just a really good actor. I liked pretty much his choices in there, and I thought that even though right he's a bad guy, or he starts off anyways in the bad guy role, sort of, you can at least identify with his character, the
Yeah.
whole thing of trying to live up to that image, which is,
Yeah.
and honestly, I could totally understand the Falcons' attitude about why he wouldn't want to take that shield, because it
Hmm.
is inheriting somebody else's legacy, right? Somebody
Yeah.
else is handing it down to you, and it's almost like, well, you're always going to be living in that shadow of what came before, right?
Right.
Even
Right.
if you take on that mantle, are you your own person, or are you just this, this ghost
Imitator.
of what was, yeah, imitator of what was before, which is great, right? And
Hmm.
that's kind of how you felt about the John Walker character, is that I think even he and his gut realized that I'm just pretending to be Captain America.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
Captain America. I'm pretending to be Captain America. And yeah, that's and you kind of feel like you're a fake or a phony, right? Because
Yeah.
you're doing that. And I think that maybe that was even a bit of the angst that the Falcon was going through as well, because it's like, this isn't my shield. This was Steve
Right.
Rogers' shield. I
Hmm.
gotta, I gotta find my own way of doing this. And I
I
felt that could have been a very big motivation, or at least I felt any person in that situation would probably feel the same way.
Well, and I think you really hit on it too, particularly with the John Walker. Well, really with both of them. I think Sam's. I think that's also part of Sam's hesitant of taking the shield. Obviously, race plays a bigger role, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I do think that with Walker, I think the reason why I think the way that they handle him, particularly up to 5 episodes, was so smart and interesting, is because I think, and why Wyatt Russell is such a great actor, a great choice and a great actor for that role, because one, he's technically is following in a legendary footsteps in a legendary shadow of somebody famous, which is his father, Kurt Russell. So he's already
Mm-hmm.
got that innate experience of that. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was interesting casting, to cast the son of someone that's already a big movie star. And
Right.
then this, and I like the fact. And second, I think having him play his insecurities and having us show those insecurities, particularly with Lamar, and
Right.
having those moments where we get to see him question himself. I mean, there's a couple of
Mm-hmm.
moments that I loved. I loved the moment um, where he gets his, first of all, he gets his ass kicked almost throughout the entire show, which is great. Which is so funny because with the trucks he gets his ass kicked, and he wants to. You could tell he wants so badly to do good. He wants so badly to
Mm-hmm.
fill those those boots. And he's trying. He even reaches out to Falcon and Bucky, to join him. Was like, hey, be a part of my team and stuff like that. But he always end up saying that wrong thing of saying, "Hey, I would be honored to have the original Cap's wingman to be my wingman." So it's always that,
Right.
oh, just shut the fuck up, man. I love that moment where Bucky looks over at Lamar, and Lamar trying to introduce himself. He says, "Yeah, my name is Battlestar," and then Bucky's like, "Stop the truck, stop the truck, I'm getting out." So it's those moments, that moment where you remember where he finds the, like, Lamar would give him good advice, and he would say, you can't punch your way out of everything, meaning part of being Captain America now, especially a government Captain America, is that you have to play the part. You have to, you have to do the interviews. You have to sign autographs.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the moment that when he found the super serum, he was asking Lamar, would you take it? And I love the idea, the difference between Lamar and Sam. When John Walker asked him, "Would you take this super soldier serum?" Now I can't. I got to say the whole thing now. The first thing
Right.
he says is, "Hell yeah, I'll take it." Because I
Uh-huh.
believe that it amplifies whatever is in you. It'll make it even stronger. So if you're a good person, then you'll be a better person. And then when Zemo asked Sam, "Would you take the serum?" Sam just said no. immediately. And I always thought in order for Sam to be Captain America, he would have to eventually take the super soldier serum, which he didn't. And that's one of the best strength of the thing. I even like the moment too where after you kill when Lamar kills himself by protecting Walker, which by the way is I have to believe this is deliberate. But not only do you cast John Walker's sidekick as black, but you also do the trope of having the black sidekick not having a life of his own except to support his white counterpart. And that's what Battlestar was. Everything was John this, John that. I'm your wingman, but you knew nothing about the you know nothing about who Lamar was as a character, as a person. And then he
Well, I
died.
guess in their eyes, well, there was no time because we're already giving all the character development to the Falcon. We can't do it to two characters,
Well,
right?
see, that's what
I
it
mean,
does kind of drive me.
it does kind of feel like that. Well, yeah.
Yeah,
So
one
Battlestar
black
gets
guy.
shafted, yeah, or Battlestar gets shafted. I mean, he doesn't get any cool backstory, which would have made me care a lot more about his character when he did die, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Because when he dies, I'm like, okay, it's a bummer that his pal got killed, but I knew so little about Battlestar and spent so little time with him.
But
I wish they would have done more with him and John Walker. That now, of course, you don't
but
give him as much screen time as you do Bucky and the Falcon, but at least you could have given them more scenes together where we could have understood Battlestar a little bit better and felt for him a little bit more, and maybe you liked his character more. By the time he does die, then you really got something invested in that character. You're going to feel something when he does get
well,
killed.
but you know how you do that is you actually have maybe a scene without John Walker, or have a scene where he has a life outside of John Walker, or have him talk about
Exactly.
something other than John Walker. There's a character named.
Everything you're
Listen,
talking about, pal, is John Walker.
that's exactly what it was. In every
Oh,
moment where you look at, I
yeah.
think it's Avaraz or Ever. Well, it's the guy. There's a Hispanic character that helps Falcon with his wings. I
Yeah.
forgot his name, but that guy. He was the first guy when he was having a conversation about the Avengers and Captain America. He was the first one that gave that conspiracy of maybe is he on the moon or something? He's like, is it true what they say about the Avenger? That guy that ended up getting the wings that I guess he's going to
Right.
eventually be
Right.
Falcon, had less screen time than Lamar, but felt more fleshed out than Lamar because he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't just
Mm-hmm.
talking about Sam, you're this, you're this. But
Right. Right.
I wasn't surprised that Lamar got killed because there's a term in comic books where you fridge a character.
Mm-hmm.
You kill a character. Usually, it could be referred to women. I think it was a Green Lantern episode where a woman was killed just to give him motivation.
Right.
Back in the comics, well, they did the same with Lamar. The moment that episode came and Lamar was gone, I'm like, okay, they're going to kill him. And sure enough, they killed
Mm-hmm.
him how did they kill him? He sacrificed a blow for John Walker. So again,
Right. Right.
so in my mind, because I do know that I think the showrunner's black. I think they had to have done that deliberately to show the difference, the trope of what John Walker kind of represents. Meaning, okay, you're my sidekick, but I don't know, but maybe not my partner. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Where I think that the Sam and Bucky relationship is definitely much more on equal terms. So that's the only way
Well,
I can
yeah,
think about it.
they're more of the they're definitely more of the Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid type,
Yes.
whereas
Then Batman and
John
Robin
Walker,
type.
Batman and Robin, definitely right. When you're going to kill a character like that is supposed to be so important to one of the main characters, you got to spend some time with them just to feel for
Yes.
them as well, because it makes that impact of their death so much stronger, and it makes you actually relate to the John Walker character so much more, and you understand why he does go freaking
Yes.
Pete Tong, and he does become so brutal when he kills the guy with the shield. You
Well,
do almost say, yeah, of course he went fucking Pete Tong, because anybody else in that situation probably would do the same. if a loved one or a best friend or something like that was murdered in front of them.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and we
um,
used to. You remember we used to get notes on a lot of our scripts where producers would say, "Well, why are you giving this supporting character so much time? You know, shouldn't you
yeah,
just focus on the main star and the antagonist and stuff?" And we used to always say, "Look, we don't want to spend a lot of time writing characters that's only going to talk about the main character. Even when he's not in the room, he's still talking about the main character. I
it's
mean,
a
you're sitting
terrible
there."
trope. It's a terrible trope,
It's a terrible trope.
and it's
Well,
so boring and so
yeah,
bland and it's
and
so old. It's like,
and
get
it's
over
so
it, man.
and it's also so predictable, and it's
Yeah,
also and you don't care about that character because you know he's only there to support the star of the series. We even had that at the funeral, not the funeral, but you remember when John Walker meets with Lamar's parents, and all Lamar's parents could say after, "Was this the guy?
he
Did you
talked
kill the
about
guy?"
you all the time.
Yes.
My
Oh
son is dead, and all you
my!
can say is that he talked
It's,
about you all the time.
he
He
was
thought you
so
were awesome.
he was so proud of you when you got your
Yeah, like
medals, and
I
you
was like,
sit there.
damn.
I,
Like,
I, I was almost
I
afraid
was like,
that
it's like they were there to make him feel better. I was like, really? Okay, you know.
I was almost afraid that John Walker was going to walk in Lamar's room, and there would have been posters of John Walker in his room.
Captain America.
Yeah, he has a
That's
diary. You know,
posters
my
of.
best friend John Walker. God damn, I'm so proud of him. I'm just like, come on, guys, come on. So
Yeah.
it does become a trope. But I mean, going back to John Walker though, if the idea of how he felt about his best friend being killed, and then the act that he brutally murders a guy in public with that shield, which that was one of my favorite moments. That was one of the moments that I did not think Disney and Marvel would do, especially Disney, but they did. Not only did he kill him, but he killed him with the shield, and that shot with the blood on the shield was just amazing. I was just like, holy fuck.
It was a terrific image, and it was one of the few times because we just talked about some of the the visuals of the Marvel films and Marvel shows are kind of bland. That was
Mm-hmm.
like the first time I
Mm-hmm.
saw in the whole show, for me anyways, when it was almost like an image from the comic book, right? It's almost like
Oh
a
yeah.
graphic image of that when he held the shield and he saw the blood at the bottom of the shield. And I wish
And
they would have more moments like that in the Marvel universe where it felt more like I was looking at the stuff that I think someone like a Zack Snyder, for instance, does so much better as far as capturing those
images.
iconic images from the
Yeah.
comics in the
Yeah.
movies and in the shows. So I thought that was a really awesome image, and I thought that was the one time visually that Marvel really stuck the landing as far as the imagery of what that character did.
There was two images that stuck with me out of this entire show, both involving him. Well, three technically, but one was the poster. I felt like it could have been the cover of a Captain America or U.S. Agent comic, which he
Right.
eventually becomes. Was the shot of him standing with the blood on the shield. That shot, I said,
Mm-hmm.
I could totally see that as a cover of a Captain America
Right.
comic. And the other one was when he was running away and he got into that warehouse and he started to freak out. And then there's that moment where he was kneeling and he was kneeling on the shield. But the way that
Mm.
they framed it, where he was kneeling on the shield in this giant warehouse, and you're seeing kind of shaft of light hitting him, I was just like visually, I'm like, holy fuck,
Mm-hmm.
that was
Mm-hmm.
a very great moment. And
It's like
but
a very graphic novel kind of
yes,
feel to that image. Yeah.
yes, and again, another one that could have been on the cover of a comic book. And the way they charted his character, the way they charted John Walker and Lamar on constantly failing every step of the way. Look, their biggest humiliation was getting beat by the Dora Milaje. And when they, and I
he,
mean, when
he
they,
really, he really, he didn't handle that one too well, did he?
no, it was, it was so
He
embarrassing. It
was
was so
like,
funny.
he's like, okay, I'm taking this super serum now, damn it.
Well, it was great because there was a moment where they stuck the one of the doors stuck the spear right through the shield, meaning he couldn't pull it out. And then after they kicked his ass and Lamar's ass, and I love just both Sam and Bucky are looking at them getting their ass kicked, and you got Bucky said, "You're looking great, John." Sam's like, maybe we should help him out. I thought that was very funny, but I love that moment after they kick his ass. One of the Dora Milaje, she does a Captain America Civil War where she steps on she slams her foot on the shield, the shield flips up and she catches it, and you're like, oh damn, I mean at that point
Right.
it was just so embarrassing. And then he makes the comment, they weren't even super soldiers and they're kicking our
Yeah.
ass.
Yeah.
So that you
Yeah.
knew that crack was going to come, and that yes, and eventually, so the Lamar was the snap that ended up killing
Mm-hmm.
the guy. That's why I was. Now let me ask you this. That's why with the way that character was so perfectly played all the way to the fifth episode, I was really confused by the way they treated him at the end of the sixth and the finale, because up to the point where he shows up um, with this homemade shield that he made, which was so embarrassing. He throws it, and an old girl kicks it, and it just falls like a garbage lid. I'm just like, oh, that's
Mm-hmm.
embarrassing. But there's a moment where he could chase her, or he can save this truck of people that's in the truck, the politicians. He chooses to save the politicians. So there is a redeeming moment, a redeeming arc. What drove me nuts though is him all of a sudden now part of the team now, and he's cracking wise with Sam. I mean with Bucky, where I'm just sitting there like, that's not where that character should have ended up.
My problem with that is that he was the most interesting potential bad guy you had in the whole movie or the whole
Yes,
series.
yes.
And it's almost like as soon as they took the shield from him, it's almost like they didn't know what to do with him after that.
You
I
know,
felt like the writers didn't know what to do with him. So they said, well, he's still around, and maybe we can try to make him sort of, because we're going to plan on making him a better guy or a good guy maybe in the future. So let's
mhm.
kind of have him kind of grouped together with them. It was very odd because you never understood, when did that moment happen where they said, okay, we understand you had some bad moments, but yeah, you can join us. You can kind of help us out now.
What I would have done is I probably wouldn't have used him for the sixth episode, because that fifth episode was his episode. That was the one where he gets his ass kicked by both Sam and Bucky. He loses the shield. Then the government denounced him. They pretty much said, "You're no longer Captain America, and now we're going to also take away your benefits and everything." I mean, and again, it's obvious too that it's a sign of the times that hit the killing
Right.
of the terrorist, even though he was a terrorist, but he was surrendering, he was unarmed, and he was still killed. That's obviously a reflection of the police brutality, particularly between young black men and stuff like that. So that,
Mm-hmm.
and I appreciate the show being able to take topics like that, like George Floyd, and put it into the show. And so but he also gives you kind of this argument that you can at least see where he's coming from, where he says, I did everything you asked.
Mm-hmm.
I followed your mandate. You made me
Mm-hmm.
this way, which tells you it's not just him, it's the system that's broken. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought that was incredible. And then to then turn around and be recruited by a shadow agent, which happens to be Selena Meyer herself, Julie
Veep
Louise
came in.
Dreyfus.
Veep came in and recruited this agent. But no,
Yeah,
I
and
thought that part
you,
I liked a lot. I don't think you needed him in
yes,
that last episode,
no, that's what I'm saying. And
except
then
for
you
that
had,
moment.
yeah, and then exactly. You could have had, maybe if you wanted to do the post credit where he makes his own shield, but then you don't use him at all for the final act until that one moment where he comes out as U.S. agent. Because my
Right.
feeling is he's justifying his actions. He's
Mm-hmm.
already down a dark path. Why not keep
Mm-hmm.
going that path? And maybe because what I've heard about U.S. Agent in the comics is he's a very radical guy. with very
Right.
radical beliefs, and he believes that the means just the ends justifies the means. So I'd
Mm-hmm.
rather keep that trajectory because that makes him much more of an interesting, compelling, even anti-hero.
Well,
But the
and I
fact,
think that would have been much. I think that would have been much more interesting because, let's face it, that final episode. I had a lot of problems with that final episode. I really, talk about not sticking the landing. I thought they failed on a lot of levels on that.
mhm,
Once again, I liked what they were saying. I just didn't like the way they said it. There's that one ending, that last act part there after everything is done, and and you have the Falcon, or now Captain America,
mhm,
giving that speech to the senators, kind of that circle around at the scene
yeah,
of the crime or whatever. And I felt that was so false, and I felt so
yeah,
clunky, and it was not in the right place. You're going, wait a minute, this felt preachy, it felt soapboxy. And
mhm,
you got these people standing and listening to his every word, like, oh my God, I'm a changed human being now. Even the John Walker character kind of gives him a nod, like, way to go. Yeah,
yeah.
I hated that. I hated it. I was sitting
Well,
there going, oh, I was cringing the whole time.
well, and again, if you were going to use John Walker in the sixth episode, wouldn't it have been a situation where he's trying to kill Carly, and
Yes.
he's stopped by Captain America, Sam's Captain America, and because now the world is looking at Sam as the legit Captain America. Why not? And why have them be friends? Why not be more envious? Why not have the moment of him looking at him with that shield and walk away and discuss? You're still keeping him true to what you created all the way. That's
Mm-hmm.
still character wise. That's still he feels like this guy now is I'm Captain America, and this guy's getting all my claim, and that makes
Mm-hmm.
him then join that secret organization and become U.S. Agent. You know what I'm saying? That
Right.
tracks
Right.
so perfect as a character arc. Instead of him, there was a moment he made a joke with Bucky, and it just felt wrong.
I hate it when they write stuff into characters that they need at the moment,
Yes.
it's almost like you're ignoring everything that came before that. You're ignoring all the motivation. You're ignoring all of
Yeah.
the situations, and you're ignoring the character traits
Yes.
without any motivation behind it, other than the fact that I need him to do this. I need
Yes.
him to be likable because we're going to make him
Yeah.
also a government agent at the end. So. It's sort of like reminds me of the Fast and Furious, where you can't have any bad guys because all the bad guys become ultimately good
Yes.
guys,
Yeah. That's a good
and
point.
join the team.
Yeah. That's
And I felt like they were doing that here. It's like, no, play it honest, play the character the way the character should be played. Don't try to recon him now and make him.
yes.
He's not such a bad guy.
No, no, but I think you just said something. Retcon. That's what I felt they did on the final episode. They
Yeah.
retcon John Walker. All of a sudden now
Mm-hmm.
I'm a good guy. I was bad or I was heading bad, but now I'm a good guy. You don't have to make him good or bad. Make him conflicted as he was always. He's an asshole. John Walker
Yeah.
is an asshole, but
Right.
he's an asshole, the asshole that you identified with. And it
Mm-hmm.
was a character that wanted to be good, and everything that he tried failed, and that actually makes sense to track him down to be a darker character as U.S. agent. That makes it tracks. You don't by trying to all of a sudden make him be one of the good guys starts to make me feel like, okay, are you trying to sell John Walker toys? So you want nice
Well,
guy to
of
be a good
course you
guy at the
are
very
trying
end?
to.
Well,
Of
I mean,
course you're trying to sell John
I
Walker
know,
toys.
I know you are,
Uh,
but I'm just saying you can still make him keep the same character and you still sell the toys. It's just he's an anti-hero. He's right now kind of a villain.
yeah.
But he is the most interesting character. Now, here's my question to you: Sharon Carter, or should I say, Power Broker? Go for
Wow. Yeah. You know, we're seeing this time and time again of, oh, we're setting up this amazing twist. And I swear to God, a minute that she enters the freaking show, as soon as you see her in the show, you go, power broker.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no question in your mind. Oh, that's her. Of course it's her. It's the only thing that makes any sense. But then they'll hold that off until like the very final episode and go, ooh, look at that. She's the power broker. the writers or the producers or the director thinks they're so cute and they're so like, oh, we're going to really get them on this one. And say, no, 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 dude, we're way ahead of you. I will say the scene at the end when the Carly character is shot, right? But
Right.
she's not quite dead yet, right?
Right.
She's not quite dead yet because the Falcon's holding her in his arms. Couldn't she have just looked up at him and gone, she's the
She's the
power
power
broker?
broker.
It's
I
like,
thought the same
if
thing.
there's anything you can say at this
Yes.
moment right now, it would be
She's
behind
the
you is
yeah
the power
power
broker.
broker. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Not. I'm sorry. Not this. This is like your last breath. She's the power broker. Thank you. That is so. That was driving me nuts. I'm like, just say the
Just
obvious.
tell him.
Thank you. Who she is. But what I was going to say is not since Agatha all along that we knew who Sharon Carter was. And the problem was they kept mentioning the power broker so much, so often, that after a while, you really didn't care. I don't know. I felt lazy. And I also felt that the Sharon Carter stuff, you didn't really give her much to do because she didn't have that much screen present. Her arc is what she told you, but never what you were seeing.
And that she kicked ass. It showed her
And that she
several
kicked
times
ass, yeah.
kicking ass. Yeah, and that was her character development, that she kicked ass, which I think is interesting. When she's fighting all the other guys, they never really get a punch in on her. She just takes them out completely. A whole group of dudes that are like
Well,
twice her size.
Tony, somebody needed to know how to fight because none of our male protagonists knew how to fight at all. Okay,
Right.
both Sam and Bucky and John Walker and Battlestar always got their ass kicked almost every time. I mean, at some point it was comical. It's just like, and even towards the end with Bucky, I kept waiting for that the Winter Soldier to show up and like say, "What am I doing?" and start kicking people's ass.
He never did get unleashed, right? I never felt like he
Yeah,
was really the super soldier that we know of, or this badass that we've always seen in past films. Uh, but I think there should have been at least a moment where we saw Bucky kind of, just take off the guards and say, "Okay, we're going to throw down my way now."
well, I think that could have been interesting if out of his fighting he was holding back because he's trying not to go Winter Soldier, but then he becomes Winter Soldier to the point where he may kill somebody. Those
Right.
moments, those are little nuanced moments in character where he's constantly trying not to be that guy. And you could have maybe just had that for the last scene where now he just had enough and he started going, and maybe he comes to the point where he is going to kill somebody and he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
He pulls back, but I guess they reserved that part to Zemo. Now, Zemo, what was your thoughts about Zemo?
I liked him.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, I thought when he teams up with them,
Mm-hmm.
and he's hooking them up with his connections and things like that. I thought, well, this was kind of it reminded me a little bit of when Pesci joined
Leo
Lethal
Getz.
Weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah, Leo Getz.
Yeah. That's kind of what the internet's calling him. He's kind of like the Leo Getz of the
Leo Getz. Yeah, and it's kind of obvious, I mean, he's like the third wheel that's kind of for comic relief and things, which was fun to a certain extent. But honestly, I felt like at a certain point of the show too, they didn't know what to do with him. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, he served his purpose. He introduces them to who we needed him to introduce them to. So we really now need just to get rid of him. And so you got the Malaysia coming in and taking him back. But when they got rid of him, I really didn't miss him.
Well, I think a couple of things. I think one, I actually think Zemo is a very compelling villain, and I would put Zemo with your Thanos and Killmonger type in the sense that in the movie, his agenda was he hated super soldiers, particularly he hated the Avengers because of the death of his family, and so he used his knowledge to tear them apart, which he succeeded, and he used the Winter Soldier to do that, which is what broke up the Avengers. I think what you end up getting with this Zemo though is someone that still plays almost like he was the most interesting. He was one of the most interesting thing of the show because you did not know what is he going to do when you get him out, and that was actually part of the excitement of having him in the show. Personally, I would have just made Zemo the bad guy
I
because
think
Daniel.
I think they missed a perfect opportunity where he's kind of
Yes,
pulling the strings all along, right?
yeah,
From both
be,
sides. And I think that could have been awesome if he would have found out that maybe he was either a power broker or he was even behind the whole flag people,
Yeah, I
thing.
mean, because the one great moment I liked about Zemo was the fact outside of look, everybody loves the moment where he's dancing in the club, the meme that goes on for a whole hour.
Okay, I'll give it to
Uh,
you. Why not?
yeah, but I love that he has the courage of his conviction. The moment he gets that he shoots Carly and and she drops all the super soldier serum. Oh, it's been a while since I said it. And he smashes it. He starts to smash all of it because he hates it. He hates it, and it's an agenda that you can understand. The idea that he thinks that superhuman beings is that's how you become a supremacist, and how those two. It's almost important. It's you can't separate them. Where he compares the Avengers to Nazis. He
Mhm.
has a very specific point of view that you can kind of understand where he's coming from.
He's sort of the Marvel Comics version of Lex Luthor, right?
Yes,
In
yes,
that
absolutely,
respect.
and even a little bit of Bruce Wayne with his old evil butler, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
But he comes from wealth. He comes from money. They use the Baron title, Zemo. He even used the mask for 3 seconds. Why? They don't ever
Yeah.
just introduce that damn mask. I don't know, but I knew the moment he took it off, I said he's not putting that damn thing on. But yet the way they dispatched him, you understood. Okay, it really is kind of a glorified cameo, even though it was a fun cameo. And Daniel Bruhl, the actor, is fantastic in that role. He really is. It was kind of like, why not just make him the bad guy? If you make him the bad guy, then that's a guy that you could see Falcon and Winter Soldier not sure if they can match wits with that guy.
He's your
Well,
Moriarty.
yeah.
He's
Well,
like,
that's what you're
yeah,
saying. You're
he's,
only as good as your
yeah.
bad guy. Well,
Hmm.
we had a bad guy, not in Zemo, and the fact that
Hmm.
he could, and maybe you do it where he can manipulate. Not that John Walker needs to be manipulated because he's kind of doing that on his own. But the fact
Hmm.
that I love that moment where he's with John Walker, and they're trying to arrest him, and the Dora Milaje kicks everybody's ass, and he just looks at him and he just starts drinking, and then he makes his escape. Every time he was out, I kept thinking, this guy's up to something. I was so invested.
By making him the heavy bad guy, the
Yeah.
more of the Hannibal Lecter, the more of the guy that the Moriarty, the guy that's two or three steps ahead of everybody, would have been
Yes.
so much more interesting. Well, let's talk about the Carly character because at the very end they set it up to where you're supposed to care that she died, right? I mean, when she
Hmm.
gets killed and Falcon is holding her, it's almost. I felt like there should have been this moment there where we felt gutted because, or he should have felt gutted, and we should have felt gutted because she was sort of a, a victim herself, right? She's a victim of the
Yes.
circumstance. She did this because she thought she was doing something good
Right.
and she was just misguided, but she had a good heart. I know what they were trying to sell us, but I never bought it.
Right.
And it
Right.
always felt false to me that moment when he's holding her. Your comrade Sharon is shot over there, bleeding out, and you're not even paying any attention to her. But
Hmm.
yet, this Carly character is dying in your arms, and you're really torn up about that to the point where you carry her out like she's a sacrifice. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I wish I would have identified with that character the way you felt we should have because you didn't do it properly in the writing and in the execution
Yeah.
of that character.
I do think that the show suffered for. This is a case where they needed to be more episodes. I think if this was an 8 to 10 episode, maybe not even 10, but at least 8 episodes, I think you could have had the time that you needed to flesh out these characters, because it felt there, and I think it would have solved a lot of the clunkiness because most of the times you had to tell somebody what was going on. You didn't probably have the time to show it.
Honestly, they showed enough of her character. She's in a lot of this movie. I mean, she's in a lot of this show. They showed enough of her character. I think that they could have totally developed that more so. I think it's their choices that they made.
Well, see, but I'm saying this not just for her, but for everyone,
Right.
because they were tackling very big issues. So, and they're introducing a lot of characters outside of Sam and Bucky. You got the story of John Walker. You got Carly and the Flag Smashers. You now introduced Zemo, and then on top of that, you got the Power Broker Sharon Carter. With 6 episodes with those many characters, it's Justice League all over again. Except it's the
Well,
2017. Now, and obviously, look, I'm not saying this compares as far as the level of that movie, but what I'm saying is that having that many characters that you're trying to flesh out with this overall theme, I think could have resulted in a couple more episodes where you didn't have to make certain choices to tell people. Because what will happen is, how many episodes do I have? 6. And you got all these themes in it, and you got 6 episodes. I don't think that was a lot for you. Either you streamline your storylines and cut people out. I would have been happy without hearing about the power broker at all, to be honest with you.
mm-hmm,
And maybe you don't have Zemo in this, but I think you
mm-hmm.
should, because he was fun. But he wasn't. He really wasn't necessary to the whole flag smasher thing, unless he's the person that is chasing her. If he is the power broker, then now it kind of makes a little bit more sense. And you leave out Sharon Carter. I don't know, but I do think that you by having limited, because 6 was the smallest out of all the series that came. I think even Wanda had 8 episodes.
Or is maybe it's a situation where all these notes come down and they say, well, you got to have this character, we got to include this character because we got to set this character, because it does seem like these episodic Marvel shows are trying to set up something that they're going to set up in the more so in the movie. So maybe it's a situation where they feel the need to set up some of these characters that they're going to flesh out later on down the line. My problem with that, though, is it makes this story, it suffers because of that. And because you're not more focused and the motivations are not clear, especially the Carly character, where, one minute she's cold-bloodedly killing people, but the next minute, see, I'm doing the right thing, help me. And you're going, I think there's even a line that the Falcon says in there, which I thought was very, very revealing, when he says, hey, I ain't complaining about what you're feeling. I'm complaining about how you're doing it, right?
Well, yeah. It's like I think it's like, no, I believe in your cause. It's how you're doing
Right.
the cause that I have a problem with. And but what you're saying about how they might be using some of these characters to set up other spin-offs and or movie projects, that that's also a problem, because I one of my biggest problems I have with WandaVision is that they had all these Easter eggs and all these character moments that you're thinking, oh, they're going to introduce these characters here in the series, and then they're going to add it on to the movies. But instead, they didn't, and it became more like, oh, okay, they're just or they're either it's a red herring. We won't do that until we do the movies, or they'll set up a character. I think of the Monica Rambeau in WandaVision, where she has this incredible arc and this incredible incredible setup, only to sideline her by the end of the show, because it's like, well, no, because she's going to be the star of Captain Marvel too. We don't want to waste it. But it's like, what? Then why am I watching the show if you give me these? Why
Yeah.
introduce
Yeah.
the characters into these shows if you're not going to fully flesh them out in this show? You can't make the assumption I'm going to then wait to go see it in the movie, where I would rather see it here and get me excited so that I can't wait to see her next movie. You know what I'm saying?
That would be my biggest note to Marvel right now. With
Mm-hmm.
when you're dealing with these, especially these recurring series, the episodic series that you're putting on Disney Plus, um, do your job. Do the beginning, middle, and end. Have a complete story, a complete arc. Give us everything. Put it all out there, and I promise you, it'll pay off in dividends, because they're going to come back for the movies anyways. They're going to
Right.
go see the movies anyhow. However you set this up, we're going to go still go, but at least give us the full course meal on your shows. Don't leave us hanging because it might work the first few times, but if they continue that kind of trajectory and they keep on doing the same thing over and over again, because we've seen it twice now. We've seen it with WandaVision, and now we're seeing it with Winter Soldier. You continue doing that, and your shows are going to get more watered down and more watered down. And now we're going to start going, well, do we really even need to waste our time with this series? Because we just wait till the movie comes out and we'll get caught up in the first 5 minutes.
Well, I felt Falcon and Winter Soldier, for me, didn't do it as bad as WandaVision as far as
Right.
setting you up and not really paying it off. Outside of the grief aspect of WandaVision, which I thought they handled perfectly, and between Vision and Wanda, particularly Wanda's storyline. Here, it wasn't even so much that they set you up with characters that necessarily was going to. They did, but at least they were somewhat involved in the story, and I executed it a little bit differently. But I was able to. I was more interested in the themes that they're talking about now. And again, part of the reason I was saying why I think 6 was not enough, because there's one major character that I loved, and it's that character that really makes me and the conversation between that character and Sam is the reason why I still think this is a very good show, and which is ironic because it seems like a lot of what we're talking about, a lot of criticisms to it, but the character of Isaiah Bradley, the Black Captain America, was so fascinating and it was so interesting, and it was so sad, and the fact that Marvel had finally brought race front and center. They didn't tap dance around the whole, well, it's kind of because you're black, but we're not going to really talk about it, or maybe we'll have a couple of people give you looks, but we're just going to sidestep and just say you're Captain America. What I loved about why they did the show was because I actually believe that when they gave Cap, when Cap gave Sam the shield, you could hear it all over the internet how so many people were against that and just kind of like, really, okay. And it's obvious why. It was so obvious, the racism that's out there of, they're just doing it because, they want to be, Marvel wants to be woke or whatever. The show
Mm-hmm.
actually finally tells you why Sam was hesitant on taking that shield. And he did it by this character, Isaiah Bradley, and hearing his story and hearing how he was forgotten, that he would taken the super serum, the super soldier serum, and the fact that he did almost mirrored the missions that Steve Rogers did back in the war, but yet while Steve was rewarded for it, he was punished for it and sent to jail. And how they took his life away and they erased his story. And then when he said these lines, nobody would ever accept a black Captain America, and no self-respected black man would ever take up the mantle. That to me really summed up why I really did feel that this show was very important on tackling that and having it be Carl Lumley, who is like, I like that actor so much. I always remember him as the voice of Martian Manhunter. Just such a great performance. It was just so good.
In fact, when he's talking to Sam and he's telling him about what he went through, I was sitting there going, "Wow, I want to see this prequel. I want to see this story. I want to see this Captain America and how that all went down." Because they kind of reference the fact that of all of the horrible experimentations they used to do on
Mm-hmm.
minorities back in the day, especially
Mm-hmm.
black people. The whole Tuskegee experiment kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you go back in history and you see that, Marvel is kind of using some of those real life events kind of in a comic book form, but you can identify with that. And I thought that was terrific. And honestly, that's one of the things that Marvel has always been really good at in the comics. And I
Yes.
felt that they were kind of repeating that here. I did feel a payoff there at the end when they took him to the museum and you saw the presentation of the
Right.
Black Captain America.
And and you're right. I think that museum played a part, the Captain America Museum. But knowing that his history was erased and Sam found a way to make that happen. I thought that was definitely a really nice scene. I think I would have felt it more if we did see his story, and this is the reason why I would have made this an eight episode series, and maybe just do a limited series, because I actually think that if well, I think one of the best superhero series that I've ever seen that was so profound was the Watchmen TV series. And part of that
Hmm.
was that they took the time to take an episode to talk about one of the characters, and you saw that character through that character's point of view.
I mean, one or two complete episodes of just that
Epis
character and a
you could have
flashback, and just focused on that. What
Yes,
that could have been amazing. That could have been
yeah,
really
I mean,
good.
absolutely. As and again, not taking away from the performance of Carl Lumley and how he told that story, but how great would it have been to actually have that episode be about that Black Captain America. And I probably, if I was going to write it, I might have wrote it before Steve Rogers, because let's be honest, in real life, they would test serums on black guys before they tested on white guys.
Hmm.
So that I would have kind of just done it that way, only to then erase it afterwards. But regardless, um, his story is so moving, and that if I would have seen that and spent more time with him, I think by the time I got to his museum, I would have had a greater impact. That museum of him seeing his statue and his story remind me so much of the Doctor Who episode Vincent and the Doctor, where the
Right.
Doctor and Amy Pond visit Vincent van Gogh, and who he doesn't believe that anything he does is worth anything. And they take him to, and he was, he's poor and everything. They take him to the future, into a museum where his work is laid out on display, and the emotion that the actor gave when he saw that was so moving, that people revered his work. And I think you kind of have that with Isaiah Bradley and seeing his museum. I just think the only piece that was missing is actually seeing some of his story played out, because with the Vincent van Gogh episode, we were with Vincent van Gogh the entire episode. So I think that story, we need to see that story. I think if Marvel anything, do a special, do something, a movie, but I would love to see the Black Captain America story.
Because I did like how they handled race for the most part.
Yeah,
Showing the fact that Sam gets pulled over by the cops, and only because
yeah.
Bucky's with him, they kind of give him a pass, right?
The trained assassins, but yet they're worried about Sam. And they go to Bucky.
Exactly.
Is he
Yeah.
bothering you? Yes.
There's a lot of truth to that, and that's when it rings. That's when it really rings true. And even with the situation when him and his sister goes in to the bank to try to get a loan.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought
Great
that was
moments. Yeah.
powerful. That was a powerful
Yeah.
moment that, you know, white people, black people, all kinds of races can identify with that, because now it's not even a race thing, it's a money thing, right?
But it's
Um,
also a race. But no, it's also a race thing, because you got the banker who is taking pictures with Sam because he's an Avenger,
well,
and
no, it totally is. But
you,
what goes right down to it though is when he looks at his records. So when he sees his financial statements and stuff, that's when that's kind of when he turns on him and says, "Well, we can't do this,"
no,
Um,
but where I would say would be different though. Let that be Steve Rogers. You're going to tell me that banker with Captain America himself needs a loan, and he has this, and if he looks at the bank statement, it's like, we can't do. I guarantee you, they would do everything to make that happen. You
well,
cannot
if
honestly tell me if it was
well,
Steve
no, I mean,
Rogers.
I mean, I can only critique
No,
what I can see. So I'm
no, no,
critiquing what I saw. So I'm
no. But what you
critiquing the fact that he was all pro pro Sam until Sam asked for a loan and he looked at his financial statement. That's when the banker turned his kind of changed his tune. That's what I
but
saw.
yeah, but the part of what that is, or at least what I see, is race always playing a part of it, and I can't believe that if a white guy in that same situation that is considered a hero, again, like Captain America, that same white banker would not have given him that loan. And that's why I think that why those moments work, and it feels really organic, because you can identify that, and particularly if you're black.
But also, I think what that scene did as well, and what it could have done even more so, but it didn't, I think it could have even helped Sam even relate with the Carly character even more so. Because the Carly character, I guess, I mean, I'm just projecting what the flag people were protesting against, and is the fact that they were running into the same issues that Sam was running into, because Sam came back right from
Oh
the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
from the thing. So because he came back from the thing, he had no records or anything anymore. So he was sort of like a pariah. Well, they were sort of like a pariah too. So
Or
I think he could relate to them uh,
yeah.
being, ostracized the way they've been ostracized. But I didn't think that they did a very good job connecting those dots.
Well, I think a couple of things that kind of stood out. One, she actually says the line, "The people we're going after are the people who won't even give you your house, or they would take
Right.
away your house." You know, so
They would
she
take
actually
away your
says
house,
that.
right?
Yeah, she also says that. Also, the Carly character obviously is from a mixed race. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
she herself is somewhat a person of color. You know, so
Right.
obviously there's that relationship, and obviously I think the idea is that. That is the people that came back are the foreigners, you know, are they're the
Mm,
refugees. They're the
yeah.
ones that
The
are trying to
immigrants,
just
or if you
the
will. Yeah.
immigrants exactly.
Yeah.
And I think, and again, I think if they just spend a little bit more time fleshing that out, so we can understand, so we don't have those questions that we had about an hour ago, saying what's their main goal, what's their issue, you know, then those are
Right.
very powerful themes that I think would really make a lot more sense. And so there's hints of that, and there are times they're actually saying it. I just think the problem is that you're not seeing it. And again, this would help better if again another episode of seeing how did them coming back impact make her life and everybody else harder. And let's talk about the final episode where everything does feel rushed. I felt like that first 10 minutes were like it's like a lot of shit's going on, but man, they're really rushing it. It was almost like we got to hit it. And I thought the editing was probably the worst that I've seen in the show. Even though I did like Sam's introduction. What did you think of his costume?
It was puffy.
Yeah.
It was very puffy. Um, I mean, it was very much like the comic book, right? I mean, it looked
Yes,
a lot like the
yes,
comic book, which was terrific. But it
yeah,
did seem a little puffy to me. It seemed a little like they pumped air into it, or had a lot of cotton
yeah.
puffiness to it. It was strange. Because it wasn't really armor. At least it didn't seem like it was
No,
armor.
it looked
I know it was a
it did
special
look,
suit that they prepared for him
but
in Wakanda, which I was kind of like, really, okay, well, this suit's gonna
oh
be
yeah,
badass. So it's gonna have
yeah.
some kind of, and evidently it does have certain properties about that makes him stronger. And
It's too much white and too much puffiness. And
yeah,
I was disappointed because when I heard Wakanda made this suit, I was thinking Black Panther all the way. Not that he was going to get a Black Panther suit,
yeah,
but I
yeah,
thought he would have
right.
got something so slick and silk and just like when he puts it on, you're going badass. And when he comes through the window, and I did like for that moment, I went okay, and I'm like hey, and then the more I looked at, it, I was like hey, it was maybe it was too comic book accurate. You know, it was just
It may have
it
been,
almost
but I did like how they integrated the wings with the suit
oh
and
yeah,
the shield.
yes,
I thought that was really nice how they kept it.
I
Because I'm glad they kept him with the wings. I'm glad they kept the
yes.
wings.
Well, what was great because it shows that his Captain America is finding ways to use the shield with the wings that's so aerodynamic, that's so imaginative. That is, it was part of the fun of watching that first 5 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes.
You're right. He has to rely on his own finesse, his own skills, his own brain,
Yes,
his own,
yes,
his own strategy, and how he can get these tools to work in his favor against
yes,
people that are more powerful than he is. And I think
yes.
that's terrific. It's sort of like a Batman, right? It's sort of the
Hmm.
Batman, how Batman experiments with these different um,
Gadgets.
tools and gadgets in
Hmm.
order to give himself the upper hand against people or
Oh yeah.
foes who have more power and more strength than maybe he has.
And I think that's what will make Sam a different Captain America. But when he does do the speech, nobody would have stood there and just listened to this guy for like what felt like 10 minutes. You know, I didn't agree with him where it reminded me of Rocky Four. I did feel like they were hitting their message too much on the nose. Where I felt like Isaiah Bradley's comments and his stories were literally right on the money. That character, that old guy, would say exactly what's on his mind. That's a different generation. He's not going
Yeah.
to sugarcoat anything. But then to kind of say it in the way at that moment with all the stuff going on, I just felt like, okay, all right, okay. I
Yeah,
wish it was someplace
I
else.
felt the direction of that final episode was really clunky. Because when he started that speech, I sat there and I went, "Why is he doing this now?
No, exactly.
Why is he doing
Yeah.
this?" I'm going, "This is not the time to be doing
Right.
this," you know, because
Right.
it comes
Right.
in 2 seconds after we're supposed to really care about the death of Carly, which honestly I
Hmm.
didn't. But
Exactly.
he
Exactly.
comes out there holding her once again, like, he sacrificed his daughter or something. And you're going, I'm
Hmm.
not feeling what you're wanting me to feel right here about this
Hmm.
character. I'm just not. With that speech, I thought, well, you're saying the right things, but in the wrong place. So my thought was,
Yeah.
if I was going to direct that, or if I was going to do a rewrite, I would just simply say, just take that speech, don't put it here.
Right.
Have the scene with Carly dying. You save the senators, all that good stuff, and go from there
Hmm.
to, because they did a great scene with the John Walker character early on into the series, right? Where
Yeah.
when he becomes Captain America, he addresses the politicians and the American people in sort of like a press conference, right? He comes
Yeah.
out on the
Yeah.
steps and he does that. I thought that would have been a beautiful moment where you could have really had a
Well, you could.
comparison between
Yeah.
what John Walker said when he came out there and now what the new Captain America will say to the people when he's Captain America. Yeah.
And it would have felt less forced. You could have taken that same weasel politician, the one that was so quick to give, that took the shield from Sam, that gave the shield to Walker, and say he's our new Captain America, and then he's the same guy that says you're not Captain America anymore, and we want our shield back. You could have gotten that same character to go, oh, I see the press that Sam's getting. You're the new Captain America, and
Yes.
you could have used that. That would have been perfect. And you bring him out thinking that if Sam going to walk in the same trap that John Walker does, and then Sam pulls a 180 on him and actually says, "Speak the truth." That would have just been so much more powerful. And then you get the expression of the white politician just like,
No,
very indignant.
it was kind of screaming for it, but I
Yeah,
felt that they were rushing. They had to
they didn't
finish.
have the
They had to
time.
wrap it all up. So why
Yeah,
bother
we got to do the
going
speech
to?
now. We got to do the
Yeah,
speech now.
yeah.
You
Why
know.
bother going? Having to reset another location and actually spend another half a day on the scene when we can just do it right now.
Well, and I'll say this: I think that the message for me is stronger than the execution. For example, let's talk about the speech. It was interesting because I almost had to look at it again. I was so distracted, kind of the placement of the speech and how it, for me, just kind of stopped the flow of the story. But then when I was listening to the speech, it's such a fucking good speech. I mean, the thing that he's talking about, putting labels on groups and stuff. Now, okay, granted,
Mhm.
those those
They're still
those people
terrorists.
were terrorists. They were
They're
terrorists.
terrorists. I'm
I, I,
sorry.
I don't
They're
I don't
terrorists.
agree with them saying that. But I think what the speech is designed, it's obvious it was designed to be talking to us,
Right.
and they're designing that by putting labels on people is a way that makes them, that's treating them as the other, the refugees, the others.
Mm.
So it's an
Right.
allegory
Hmm.
for that, and that's what was amazing. And when the senator is saying, well, you don't understand, when Sam says, I'm a black man carrying the flag, what don't I understand? I don't understand
Hmm.
about not being accepted or being not respected and all those things. So, I mean, again, it's those moments. And then another part of the speech he says, which I really loved, is that he says, if you're going to make changes that's going to affect people's lives, you have the power to do that. You got to know we got to find out who's going to be in that room to make those changes. And is it going to be the people whose lives that you're going to be changing? Those those
Hmm.
those people that represents the country should be in that room to help come up to a solution. And when I heard that who's in the room, I often think of the Hamilton, it happened in the room. The song, where did it happen? It happened in the room. You want to be in the room because you're a part of the game.
Right.
And that, see, it's all those little moments as I'm breaking down the speech that I realized it's just such a great speech, and it's such a great message. And yes, even though the placement of it didn't quite fit, or even though some of the other moments of action are somewhat clunky, I've that stuff registered with me in a way that I can forgive it for a lot of the shortcomings. And again, there was a moment. What episode 5 was my favorite episode of the whole series. It covered
Mm.
so many things
Hmm.
and does so many things, and it even and going back to Bucky for a quick second, I love that moment where Bucky stays over Sam's house and he wakes up on the couch and he sees Sam's nephew playing with the shield,
Yeah.
and Bucky
Yeah. That was a
got it.
nice moment. Yeah.
Bucky realized that, oh fuck, me and Steve never realized what this would have done to you by giving you the shield. I never understood.
Hmm.
How could I? I was more worried about myself and how it affected me because the shield was the only family I had. And he actually apologized. He actually said, "I'm sorry. I owe you an apology because of the weight that you're going." And that tied in. That to me mirrored the thing that Sam said to Isaiah in the 6th episode, where he said, "We built this country. We bled for this country. No
Hmm.
one's going to tell me that I can't fight for this
Hmm.
country." And that's what, and
Great
to me, that
words.
was
Yeah. Great
that was
words.
it.
Right.
It
Yeah.
was so simplistic because basically what he's saying is, I'm not asking permission to be Captain America. I am Captain
Hmm.
America,
Right.
and that's what I loved about it. And I think
Well,
that
honestly, that scene or that whole episode where Bucky and the and Sam are working on the boat,
the boat.
just them hanging out drinking beers, I thought
Yes,
my,
yes,
you know, it's interesting with this show. There's moments when the writing is really good. There's really
hmm
good. There's some moments where the writing is really good, and then there's other moments when the writing is so like by the numbers and
yeah,
kind of. I think this show was
yes.
good, but it could have been
Could have
great.
been great, and I think that's
Yeah.
why I got to tell you, there was a big moment that I was so happy when it went Falcon and Winter Soldier to Captain America and Winter Soldier. I was just, I was, that was an emotional moment. That was right up there, with the end of
You mean
Endgame.
the end credits? The end credits at the very end.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
to see them change Falcon and the Winter Soldier to Captain America and the Winter Soldier. It's hard to describe it to you, but for me, it was hope because
Right.
I think it wasn't just we're going to just throw him out there. There was
Hmm.
a lot of work in this show to get the audience ready for a new Captain America.
Right.
And for the most part, I thought they did a great job. And then to finally have him there with costume and all, and I guarantee you, when he gets to do his own movie, which he will, and we'll talk about it, that costume is going to be 10 times better than the puffy costume he
The
had on.
puppy.
Yeah, that's the
The
TV version. That's the TV
TV
version. That was the
version, right?
budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Now
Yeah.
in the movie version, he's going to be like, see, he looks like Chris Evans in Captain America Avengers costume.
Right.
Because you look at that Captain America costume in Avengers, that was not a flattering. That looked like a costume. It
Yeah.
generally he was the one person that stood out where it's like, wow, it looks like you're wearing a costume. And that's kind of how I feel with Sam and his costume. That
Right.
it's a good show, but it
Hmm.
could have been great. It has
It could have
great
been great.
moments in it, but it could have been great.
Yeah.
The road. So if we're critiquing it more harshly, it's because the potential was so there to be a great show because
Yes.
they were so ambitious on the things that they were touching upon that it was just the execution and the amount of episodes that they were trying to cover everything sometimes at once where
Hmm.
it really but that final episode then really felt the rush where
Yeah.
even despite some of the clunkers there were still some episodes that were flawless, some episodes
Right.
that were just great. And that's why I think that 5th episode really, that was when the stuff that happened with Walker and him flipping, that was with um uh uh I mean, that was the aftermath of that. But I think episode 4 and 5 were my favorite because they were almost like a two-parter. But you're right, the time that Sam spent with Bucky, and then I realized at that point, I said, oh, this is where they became friends. But to my surprise, this movie was really more of a character study of Sam and Bucky, and particularly with Sam's story. And I think that's the stuff they got right. The Isaiah stuff,
Yes.
the race stuff. I thought that was excellent. I think, it's that stuff, and even the John Walker stuff, I thought they got right all the way until to the last part. I thought they really nailed perfectly. And for me, I just think the good stuff that they done in the show so outweigh the bad stuff. But that stuff is still prevalent. It's still there. But all in all, I was glad to watch it. I really did enjoy the series altogether. I can't wait till the movie to come out. I actually enjoyed it even better than WandaVision. So I thought all in all, I appreciated the fact that somebody mentions the fact that Sam's black. And that he's going to be the next black Captain America. To end it, they even had the one moment, and yes, it's kind of cheesy, and it's very reminiscent of Spider-Man when he was hanging from I think it was the Brooklyn Bridge, and the Goblin was trying to kill him, and then the fans started throwing stuff at the Goblin because they make that comment that, hey, you mess with him, you mess with all of us. We're New Yorkers, and I kind of get it in a sense because that was after 9/11, and it was that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's that moment where they're playing on, oh, you're Black Falcon. The kid says it to Sam, which I thought was funny, and Sam comes back, what are you, a kid? Or are you Black Kid? Because it was a black kid that said it.
Mm-hmm.
But then you got another person saying, that's Black Falcon. Then you got somebody else saying, nah, that's Captain America. Yeah, as cheesy as it kind of comes across, but you appreciate some of that. You kind of go, okay.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, it's those moments of just tightening up execution, streamlining it. It could have been great, but you know what? The fact that they did, it's a very solid show, and I was glad to see it. Lee, where can everybody find you?
Everybody can follow me at Lee Anthony Smith on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And you, Greg, how can they follow you?
You can follow me at Gregory J. Bradley at Twitter, Instagram, the usual places. Also, you can follow our film, Noir, at Noir the Film. If you want to know more about us, we're filmmakers, we're storytellers, and we're doing post-production on our movies. And so we're looking for support. Please, if you like this podcast, you like what we're talking about.
Share, and subscribe.
Absolutely. All right, sir. On that note, I will say goodbye.
Yeah. Till next time.
Until next time.